Hello, everybody. What you all thinking? I went to the barber shop and I said I want the Tim Pool haircut. The barber shop went, "Who is Tim Pool?" And I'm like, "Well, you're going to hear about it." Makes this really interesting video game called Subverse, and he's going to be the biggest podcaster on YouTube. Just you wait and see. Just wait for Joe Rogan to leave the door. Tim Pool is going to be like, "I got your political commentary right here, baby." And I want to look like Tim Pool. I want to steal his look. So the barber gave me this. Huh? Is it nice? I hope it's nice. Right. So now that I have a little bit of free time, let's talk about the important stuff. You see, in the United States, they have this problem with racism. And they hire intellectuals, actual smart people, the creme de la creme, in order to fix racism for society. And some of these people have already started fixing racismus before they have managed to quantify it. Because how can you fix something if you can't quantify it? Like, how do you know that your measures are working? How can you tell if what you're doing is effective or not if you can't measure the thing? For example, if you put me in charge to lower the crime in a neighborhood, how would I go around doing it? Well, first of all, I would assess what the crime level is today. So I would do some statistics. I would look at archives in order to see how much crime we're having in 2020 in that neighborhood. And then I would implement changes. Things would have to change. And next year, I would assess again. And I would see if my changes were good, or maybe I'm not cut out for the job and someone else should take my place. When I was at the University of Medicine, they did the same thing. They wanted to start a campaign to lower the cases of tuberculosis. And what did they do? They sent out students in various schools and areas in order to warn people about tuberculosis. What are the signs of tuberculosis? And how can you avoid and protect yourself from getting tuberculosis? And then the next year, they reassessed the cases. And the case number went down, so it means that the government did not waste money with that campaign. Now, of course, there's a lot of other variables and other reasons why the cases might have gone down, which is why the next year they're going to reassess again to see if it wasn't a fluke or not. I mean, this is some serious stuff, people's health. And the government used the taxpayer money in order to fund this research and to fund this program. So the taxpayer need to know whether or not their money was wasted. The same doesn't happen with the people that fight against racismus. I mean, they seem to be the first ones to go up on a stage and demand respect. Respect them because they're fighting racismus. But it doesn't seem that they have some numbers to back up whether or not their suggestions, which affect people like you and me, are actually improving race relations or not. We just have to take their word for it. In other words, you have a company that's going to say, "Give us money and we end racismus." And usually they're being funded by taxpayer money or from NGOs or kind-hearted people that like to donate to them. And then they implement changes. They basically try to hammer down onto society, "This is how you need to behave." And that's it. You have to take their word that the changes are working and they're effective. So what am I on about? Well, today, two very, very intelligent people at CNN decided to write an article telling that you, yes, you, the person that's watching this, need to listen to this multi-billion-dollar corporation and change your language. Because the words that you are using are creating racismus. How much racismus we don't know. But they are rooted in racismus, and if something is rooted in racismus, can only provide the fruits of racismus. As such, you are responsible. Okay? Whenever a hate crime is happening, if only you would have changed your language and not used these words, maybe the hate crime would have not taken place. So you are responsible. You're a piece of shit, according to a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Okay? So, what are the words that we need to change? It's a big list. It's a big list of words that everyone needs to stop using. Because only by destroying these words can CNN end racismus and other organizations that CNN uses in order to get this really important knowledge. I mean, ending racismus is really easy. All you have to do is destroy language. And if people wouldn't be able to speak, mute people do not contribute to racismus, according to CNN. I mean, they didn't directly say it, but logic, right? Like, it's all when you open your mouth. That's the problem. When you open your mouth, you're creating an environment of systemic systems, of systemicisms and oppression. Mute people, by this definition, cannot oppress others. You can even do like a thought experiment. Just have a colony of mute people and see if there's racismus there or not. Why won't they do this experiment? Like, I'm really curious, huh? Wouldn't it be interesting? But any person with a brain can notice that racism is very profitable in 2020. Fighting racism, especially if you're an NGO or a corporation or someone that has connections to people, especially in the media, will not only give you money from donations, but in some countries even government taxpayer in order for you to fight hate. Now, if they were to actually fight hate, if they were to actually improve race relations, then their existence wouldn't be justifiable anymore. Like, million-dollar industries would just poof overnight. You know, all the diversity officers, all of the people that are working for politicians whose entire platform seems to be about ending racism, all of these people would be out of a job. Moderators at Facebook, moderators at Twitter, all of these people that have, like, if there was no racism in the world, what would their job purpose be then? So they have to pretend that they're fighting against racism by bringing nonsense solutions to the table, and at the same time keep getting cash. So as long as they maintain the status quo, they probably don't want too much racism in society, because then it's like people are going to look at them and consider them ineffective, right? But they don't want the racism to go way too down. So organizations like CNN just want to maintain the status quo just in perpetuity, where people are clicking their articles and they're clicking their stuff in order to get outraged. And this is, honest to God, my opinion as an Eastern European person looking into this nonsense. So when you look at things like words such as master bedroom or master bathroom is problematic. Now, they don't have to explain how exactly is using these words. They just say, well, back in 1926, there was a house for sale and it had a word like master bedroom, and that is why America is racist today. So let me get this straight. If a black family purchases a king-size bed, does that make them now monarchy? Does that make them royalty? No, this is coming from the academia. Like, you need to understand, there are people out there considering themselves smart putting out this nonsense. Like, you can't put out this nonsense unless you go to the academia. And then you find in computer technology, master-slave is problematic. This is on CNN that you're reading this from. Alright? Now, we are not talking about human beings. We're talking about tools and machinery. I don't think there's going to be a time where you're going to see hard drives marching in the streets demanding their rights. Then blacklist and whitelist is a problem. The Masters tournament, and you have like all of these things that are completely ridiculous. some of them are words that we don't even use, like the peanut gallery. I have not heard in over 6 years this expression. Like, I know it probably exists, but apparently the problem is that it used to be the cheapest seats in a theater, and someone says no comments from the peanut gallery, it implies that a certain group of comments is rowdy or uninformed. Well, isn't this replaced with words like mansplaining, or you're not allowed to talk about this because of your skin color, like white splaining, or any combinations of thereof? I guess this is why we don't get to hear about the peanut gallery, huh? And they even have these words for non-white people, like, for example, internalized misogyny. It actually means that a woman who disagrees with the progressive culture has internalized misogyny. So that's why whatever she has to say is not important, that we should dismiss it. And like you have all these things. Now, my assumption is that these things are not meant to end racismus. Okay, these things are actually meant to get people used to the idea that top down, like from a company, a corporation that is unaccountable, unelected, unrepresentative, and is for profit, can dictate to you that certain words are now off the limit. Like, you from your own house are not allowed to use these words because a corporation says so. They don't have to explain themselves. They don't have to justify by how much they change the world by not allowing these terms to be used. It's just like, it's power for them. It's a power trip. Like, imagine how nice and funny it is to be able to get other human beings to comply to your whims and demands. Like, how much power and influence you can have if you decide, yeah, we're not going to use this word anymore, and anyone that uses it. The OK sign is the perfect example. Like, there was a person fired for doing the OK sign. Like, do you imagine how much power do the people who thought by banning the OK sign you're going to end racismus, and now someone does it and they get fired? Do you understand how much power these people have over other human beings? It's very interesting, isn't it? But it's why people call it the new religion. Because you have some person claiming to speak on behalf of God. So, how can you debate that person? I mean, he speaks on behalf of God, right? And then he gets to tell you how to live your life based on his interpretation of what God says. That person has a lot of power, doesn't he? Like, in this, well, that's what they're doing now. And honestly, if I was 100% convinced that they're ending racismus, that they're improving the world and they're making the world a better place by removing these words, I would probably agree with it. Like, I don't have to use these words. I don't have to use master bedroom. I can just say the biggest bedroom in the house. I can do that if I legitimately believed that it has a positive change in the world. But since there are no studies about it and it hasn't been quantified, like, again, make a study where you have like a community of mute people that cannot speak at all, and show me that that community is better than other communities that speak. They're not using what? They're definitely not using the word master bedroom, right? Because they can't articulate it. But you're not going to see these studies because, again, what's the purpose for it? Like, why would the people that make such a good living off of grifting be held to any sort of objective account? In fact, they actually go around and they say that objectivity doesn't exist. And if you were to make a study proving them scientifically that they're wrong, they'll probably call that study racist. Let me know what you think. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the comment section.